Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today is 9th day of JavaScript in DDCDP 23, and we will be studying something called callback, help, and promises. So what actually is a callback? You might know that when we have function reference and we want that to be run at some later stage by either some calling some add event listener or clicking something, or maybe setting up timers, we need to pass some function references. They are called callbacks. So why are these important? Normally we have two types of paradigms in programming: synchronous programming and asynchronous programming. So they are mostly applicable during asynchronous code in JavaScript. So for example, let us just first demo what is synchronous and asynchronous programming. I have two files. One is name.js and barebone HTML, name.html. So for example, I write 3 lines of code. B and C. So this line of code will run first, then this, then this. So this is synchronous programming. When each line means it will run in order. But for example, I want to print this one after 2 seconds. So for what I can do is I will change the second line into a set timeout function, and set timeout, as you know, it has 2 parameters. The first one is a callback. The first one is a callback because it can be any function. So for example, ABC is a function which we need to run after 2000 milliseconds. So we can have ABC defined here or here, whatever, or we can directly run an anonymous function as a callback. So we'll move this console.log to this anonymous function. So what does this mean? It means that run this function after 2 seconds. That's why it is known as callback function, which will be run later on. So now this line of code will run, and then this line of code will run, and then this line of code will run. But here we have introduced a delay of 200 seconds. So do you think this program will wait for this, or it will print first the console.log C, and then later on it will? Okay, because this is the asynchronous nature of code in JavaScript. Okay, maybe some other languages it will wait for this to be over, then it will shift to the later line. But here in JavaScript, this code will run first, then it will print out this one, and once the 2000 milliseconds have passed, then it will print this one. So let us demo if it is true. Just open it in the browser. So you can see A and C have been printed and B is printed after 2 seconds. This is known as asynchronous code in JavaScript. So in real world, this is just printing of the character C, but in real world it can be fetching data from some API or maybe some databases or some operation which takes some time. Okay, so that's why we use set timeout functions. Now let us print some characters in order. Okay, so maybe if I'm able to print my the characters of my name here, so I will first set timeout, the same function, and I will print the character A after say 4 seconds. Okay, now I want to print the second character. Let me just type my name here. Now we want to print Z. So if I do it outside of it, maybe I gave some hard-coded value of the time. But here if I run the set timeout function here inside the anonymous function which we have passed as callback, so we'll just set timeout. It will again have two parameters. The first one is function and the second one is some time. So maybe after 2 seconds it will console.log z. Now let us print the third one also. Let me quickly copy this. So we are sort of nesting the set timeout callout. And similarly AZMAT, and then maybe I have to type SHA also, so another call to it, this S and H A and then okay. So you can imagine if somebody is going to type the whole name of his and it is longer than mine, so maybe there are more nested calls, and you can change the number of seconds here to some varying numbers. If you now check it in console, so it is printing all the elements of my name, characters of my name, with varying time, milliseconds actually, but they are in order actually. So first A is being printed, then Z, then M, then A. That's what we wanted. So the concept is that we are actually waiting for the operations within this one set timeout. We are waiting for the first one. Once that is over, the second one is printed, and then so on. So all of these is in order, and if you can see, it's a kind of a design, greater than sign you can call it, some, and this is known as callback hell, because we are dependent on each of the callback. So this operation will only run once this has run, and similarly to the last one. So this M will never run if all of these haven't been run, and even the code looks very strange, okay, nested sort of. This is known as callback hell. So prior to 2015, people would be always writing something like this, all which is known as callback. It is still valid, but the programming style is a bit weird. So JavaScript community after 2015 in ES6, they have introduced something called promises. So we can achieve the same but with different code, and we will study that now. Is this clear what callback hell is? Callback hell is that you are dependent on different callbacks to achieve functionality, and it can be like this in your code. If you go to images.google.com and if you just callback hell, so you will see a lot of such code, and all of these are articles you can study yourself as well. So it gave rise to something called promises in JavaScript, and these promises are everywhere now in asynchronous JavaScript. And as I said, asynchronous JavaScript is that part of JavaScript where some functionality is run but after some wait, so that is achieved after some wait, actually maybe some API calls or database calls. Okay, so I have two files, promise.js already, and promise.js and promise.html. So let us do the same thing here in promises, but first some basics. So normally promises are created. Let me give you an example. For example, you have gone to some there is a lot of rush on a naan store or bread store, and you are in queue and somebody has given you a token. They have taken money and given you a token, so you can call that token as a promise. Okay, so the shopkeeper has promised you that you will get your bread after it is ready. That's how that token actually means a promise from shopkeeper that he will give you that bread once it is ready. That is the main concept. Once it is ready, then he will give you. Similarly, we have promises for that purpose. So let's create a function. We can call it directly also, but for now we will create a function and we will call it for now promise creator. It will create a promise. Okay, this function will create a promise for us. So let or maybe const or whatever, let prmi, or maybe we can call p1 is equal to new promise. And now you know what actually this new keyword is, or the capital. Maybe in JavaScript there is some constructor function or class which is promise, so you just need to call it. So p1 is equal to new promise, like this, and we will return this promise. So what is the promise created? p1. Simple. Whenever you are creating a function, this is good programming practice. If you need to return something from it, so first you create that variable and then return it at the end. Then in the middle you can write all the logic, or even you can directly return it as well, but variable is good. So let p1 is equal to new promise. So promise actually has a callback function also. It itself has a callback function, and callback function is just this anonymous callback function. We can call like this. This is very tricky. Just notice the new promise accepts a callback function. This is just like set timeout or maybe some add event listener. Okay, so this callback function itself accepts two arguments or parameters. So they are known as, they can be anything, but we will call it resolve and reject. These are two normal famous ones. Okay, resolve and reject. We can call it R or RJ also, whatever, because these are just parameters. Okay, so resolve and reject. Let me just comment it out here. The promise accepts a parameter as a callback function. Okay, and that callback function itself accepts two parameters which are functions too. Okay, this is a bit confusing, but so new promise, this is the callback function. Okay, function, and but that function itself accepts two parameters which are also functions.
Reject and resolve both are functions.
Yeah, they are functions actually. Okay, why is it pointing me out to this? Maybe some bracket is missing. Let's do it again. Okay, this is, so it accepts a parameter, callback function like this. Okay, and the callback function itself accepts two parameters which are resolve and reject, right? Okay, so now for now, if I just run this function, so what will be the output of this function? This promise, because we are returning it. Okay, we are returning it. So if I just run this function, because a function is once created, if you don't run it, it won't run. You run or call. So let us create a p out as a function, and we will a variable, and we will run this function like this. Okay, so now if I console.log p out, so what it will be? It will be a promise. It will be a promise. Okay, so it shows a promise. You can see it's a promise, and promise has, if you open it, it has these methods or properties. One of them is pending. One of them is pending. Pending means nothing has so far happened. So in that analogy of the bread, so for example, you have been just given a token, a promise has been created, but you haven't yet been either rejected for bread, or you have been given any bread. Okay, so right now it is pending. In real world, it can be, maybe you are fetching some huge amount of data, or maybe you are accessing some third-party servers, whatever. So a promise has been created for you, but you haven't yet got anything at all. Okay, so for example, right now we have a promise, but nothing has happened. So when will we know that something has happened? This promise is successful. So inside this callback function, these are the two functions which are passed. One is resolve, the other one is reject. So if we run the resolve function, resolve like this, if the function to be passed as in the callback function as a parameter, the first one, if it is run, it means this promise has been resolved. So in the bread analogy, what would it mean? That you have been given the bread, right? So if we check that console.log now, and the function is this promise creator resolve return given. So you can see it shows fulfilled now. Earlier it was pending, now it is showing as fulfilled. So whenever a promise resolve function is run, it means that this promise has been fulfilled. Got it? You can debug it in console.log, and it will show the fulfilled word there. But if the reject is run, so for example, for some reason you have been in the queue, you have been waiting for your bread, but for example, all the flour has been finished. So in that case, you won't be given your bread, right? So they will reject the promise. So in that case, rather than running the resolve function, it will be reject. And if reject is called, it means the promise is not fulfilled. And if we check the now it shows rejected, right? So in real world, it can be, for example, some API server which is down, and you need to fetch some data from it, but it is down, it's not working. There can be a lot of reasons, but got it? So resolve means if the promise is successful, this function is run, resolve. And remember, this is just the parameter name, okay? So if I pass just R and say J, so here what will I do then? It will be just R then, calling R is not the name, okay? The first one means this first function will mean that you have to run this if it is resolved, the promise is resolved. Otherwise, the second function will run, okay? Let us make them again to resolve. Okay. So right now let us leave it as this, okay? Now we are already console.logging p out, so it is actually showing us this as fulfilled, but we cannot do anything with this fulfilled. We need to have some extra functionality with the p out variable, which is actually returned from this function as a promise. So that is, if you will p out dot then, we'll call a function dot then. So what does this mean? Dot then means once this is resolved, then do this. Okay, right now in the earlier example we were using nested timeouts, but here we will not do that. We will just call dot then. So it means once the promise is resolved, you will have to run the dot then function. So all your functionality will then go inside the dot then function, okay? And we can chain it. If it doesn't get resolved, we will run the catch function like this. So for example, my question to you is, if the reject is called here, so which one of the two will run? The catch will run. Well done. Okay, both of these functions except callback functions also, so we will run those like this, and the catch is also, it also accepts this. Got it? Once the you have a promise, you will have to use dot then with it, and it accepts a function as a callback. And what that function will do, it will be run if it is successful, if it is resolved. Otherwise, the catch will be run if it is rejected. So for example, here if it is resolved, it means the dot then will run, okay? And here we will run console.log hurrah, promise is successful, right? And if it is rejected, we will run console.log, or even you can run a function console.error. Do you know about it? And here we will run oh no, promise is rejected. Is this okay? So what are your guesses now? If I check my console, what will be the output? Okay, hurrah, promise is successful because resolve has been run. But if you just run reject right now, reject, what do you expect now? Which part of this code will run? The catch one. So it will be now an error, oh no, promise is rejected. Got it? So you can, this is known as catching errors in promises. Yeah, sort of. So in real world, how will it work? For example, you are fetching API data from some API, and if it is successful, you will run the resolve, and that data will be present inside this dot then function. If it doesn't run successfully, then it will go to the catch. Okay, one more thing. Let us resolve it again. Resolve. Okay, so you can pass any data inside this resolve function, any data. So for example, we will call it this is data from the resolve function. Okay, the dot then function has a callback function. Okay, and if we pass some parameter here, for example d, and I console.log d, so this data which is passed to the resolve function becomes available in the dot then function. This parameter actually is this data which is being passed from here. Okay, so you will catch it here. It is passed here, but you will have to catch it in the dot then function and as a parameter d. So what should be the output of this d? Any guesses?
This is the data from the resolve.
Well done. So this is the data from the resolve function. So whatever you pass to the resolve function, it becomes available here in this function if you pass that parameter here. Okay, and similarly in the catch, if it is rejected, so we can call it rejected or whatever, so it becomes available here as well, console.log r, if it has been rejected. So if I call now reject, and this is data from the reject function, so what is going to be the output now? This one. This is data from the reject function. Got it? Good. Let us make it again to resolve. So this is all hard coded sort of. We are either running the resolve or reject. Okay, so let us have some logic, just a dummy one for now. We will pass a number here, say 5 or 10 or whatever. This is just n for now. This is the parameter, and in real we will pass some number here, 6 or 7 or 8. So for example, if the number is greater than 5, we will resolve the promise. Otherwise, if it is less than 5, we will reject the promise, for example. So we have just passed a parameter which is n to the function. So once we are calling it, we will call it with some number. Okay, so here in the this function, inside the resolve and reject, here we will have the logic. So if n is greater than 5, if n is greater than 5, now what we will do, we will resolve the function, else we will reject it. So reject, this is from reject function, or maybe number should be must be greater than 5. That's why you have been rejected. And here we will good, number is greater than 5. Okay, now you get the point. If n is greater than 5, we will resolve it, otherwise we will reject it, else reject it. So what should be the output of this function now? It's more than 5, so it will be it is successful. But if the number is say 4, so oh no, promise is rejected, number must be greater than 5. Got it? So this is how we do promises. Okay, now if you can see, it is just instant. We are not doing anything else. We are immediately doing the rejections or accept. But in real world, there is some time associated with it. Okay, so we can move all this logic, all this logic, if and else, to a timeout function, so that we can see that there is some time associated with it. Okay, because in real world there will be some time. So here we will set timeout. Let us for now just enclose it inside the set timeout. It accepts two parameters, one is function and another one is time, like this. For example, we want it to be after 3000 milliseconds, and we will move this code inside the set timeout function, so that we can have some time to note that whether the promise is fulfilled or. So now if we refresh it, and after 2 minutes 3 seconds it shows us that is rejected. So the example of bread and tokens. So for example, you are now waiting. If I refresh the page, you are now waiting. You have been promised, but waiting for your turn, and now you have been rejected. Got it? Is this clear? So let us recap. This is just a function promise creator, and we are running returning a promise here. So how is promise created? New promise. It accepts one parameter, which is a function, callback function, and that callback function itself accepts two parameters, resolve and reject, and those two are also actually functions. But just to mimic real world example, we are employing a 3 seconds delay here, and if the number is which is passed to this function, if it is greater than 5, we are resolving it, otherwise we are rejecting it, and then we are calling this function with this number. So you actually the return promise is this, and then dot then is called. Dot then means if this promise is fulfilled, this then function will be called. It accepts a function, and if it is rejected, then the dot catch is called. Got it? So the example before, we use set timeouts for our example, where I printed out my name after certain seconds. We'll redo this here. So let us quickly create another promise, rather a function which is a promise. Okay, so function name printer is the name of the promise, for example. Okay, what will we do? Let p2 equals new promise, and it accepts to one parameter, function, and that's it. That's the callback, and it itself accepts which is resolve and reject. That's it. Okay, so here let p2 is equal to new promise function this. Okay, and as I said, so that you don't forget, so always return the promise first. So p2 will be, so that you don't forget it. So now if we call this function, let p2 is equal to name printer, for example. So what it will be? It will be a promise, and we will have to use dot then with it. Okay, p2 dot then. But here we need to have some logic now. So I want to print a first. Okay, so maybe if we can pass make two parameters into the name printer, one will be n, the number of seconds, and the second will be character, car. Okay, so here now, for example, if I want the first one to be printed after 3 seconds, so it will be 3000, and the character should be a. Got it? That's why in the function definition we are passing two parameters. The first one is n, which will be the number of milliseconds, and the second one is character, which is maybe the first character of your name. Okay, here again we want set timeout so that we can use these seconds. Okay, so set timeout is the function. The second parameter will be what we will pass here. What we will pass here?
Callback function.
The first is callback function, and the second one is n. Good, like this. The second one is n. Okay, here we will print console.log. What we will print? Character. Good. Whatever is passed, that will be printed after n seconds, milliseconds. Okay. So once it is printed, what we will do? We will make resolve. If it means that it has been printed, so after the print we will resolve the promise. Means that task has been done. Got it? And here that's it. Now p2 dot then. So if resolve is run, it means that then will take effect, right? So p2 dot function, and it has a parameter. And just for your understanding, we can console.log it here also, character, but I don't want to print it here, so that you know why. Because all the logic of completing the promise should be in the dot then function. Okay, so we will remove the dot console.log from here, and we will pass, as I said previously, this character as a parameter to the resolve function. So what it will do? It will resolve. It will appear here as d, and we will console.log here log. What should it be? D or car?
D.
Good. Okay, I was not going to print it here because all the successful code after a promise is fulfilled should be run inside the then function, and it is passed a parameter of callback as a callback, and the parameter of that callback is actually the data which is passed to the resolve function. Okay, so here p2 the then, and it will hopefully be printing it out now. Okay, so if I check it, this A has been printed after 2 seconds. Okay, is this clear, or should I repeat? Okay, so once A has been printed, what I can do is inside this function, just like we did in but this is just to a small level, you can say, we can recall new name printer here after the console.log of this. So name printer, and say after 2 seconds I want to print Z now. Okay, and we will return it. So inside the first callback of then, we are returning the second function also. So in this case, we can, this is known as then chaining. We can then call then again like this. So maybe we can again call then like this if it is called more than once. So at least this is chaining and not just like nesting. Okay, so there is some improvement already. So for example, here we will, as I said, return name printer this. So dot then will again be a function because this is also a promise. and like this. Okay, and here we will console.log d again. So what will be d? It will be z, and it will be after 2 seconds. So let us just, so that has been printed. What is your next guess? If I have to print m also, return, good, return name printer, and it will be m, maybe after 1 second. And once that is done, it will be dot then, because every promise is controlled with dot then. I mean, whatever is successful operation of the promise, that is done with dot then. So once this promise is completed or resolved, so dot then again, and this is again a function, and d is here, and here we will console.log d again. Each time it is called, it is having its own value. So now it will be printing. Is it okay? So you can move on. Let us not waste any other further time. So you can see these are the 3 printings of the characters of A, Z, M, and if we compare it with this one, so it is in a callback help, but it is a bit linear, not that cumbersome. Is this clear?
Yes.
Okay, for example, we want some logic that if any of the characters is inside an array, for example, so it will not print that, and it will reject the promise. It will not print that, it will reject the promise. So for example, let us pass one more character here. It is AR. It is an array which we want to pass as a parameter to this function. So here, for example, in real world, when we are calling it, it will have, say, for example, J, capital J, comma, O, capital O, comma, G. Okay, if there are these 3 letters, we will not resolve the promise, we will reject the promise. We will reject the promise. So here we need to have, this is the functional definition array. So what we need to set here is, we are just resolving here right now. So if we add some if condition, if then resolve it, else what we can do? Reject. And reject will have also the character like this. So if, what's the I think we can use array dot contains, right? Array dot contain or something. Array dot contains char. If it contains this, and if it doesn't contain this, then resolve it, otherwise reject it. Let us check dot contains in Google. Array dot contains, include, sorry, contain is the PHP one. Array dot includes. So if not array dot include this, if this character is not present in the array, we will resolve it, otherwise we will reject it. Okay, so for example, the second one is is it? Mm, yeah, we will have each time we'll have to change this now as well. Maybe for now just let us repeat it. And after all the thens we have a dot catch block. Okay, after all the thens we have a dot catch. So dot catch is just similar to dot then, but the only difference is it is run once the promise is rejected, and it will also have D or E or whatever, maybe we call it E here. So console.log E, or maybe error, we'll call it E $, E is not allowed to be printed. Is this clear? Okay, so we are calling the name printer function which returns the promise again and again, and if any of these characters we are passing has something from the array, for example, if I call it Ajmat, okay, some of my Indian friends call me Ajmat because they can't pronounce Z very easily. So maybe if that is the scenario, so what do you expect the output of this function now? So exactly, let us check if everything is fine. So it says J is not allowed. Okay, J is, what else are you expecting? If there is a promise in a chain of promises, because all of these are, you can see J is not allowed to be printed. Okay, what else? For example, if we if we make it G, so A and Z will be printed, but G will say it will be rejected. So A is Z printed and G has been rejected. Is this fine? Okay, so these two have been run and the last one is rejected. But if in case I make the first one G, other ones are okay, this one, and
because G is part of an array.
Yeah, but still it so do you think all the three will be run, or it will just
Rejected, yes.
exactly? So now G is not allowed to be printed and the rest of the two are not run because we have a single catch at the end of the chain, then and then a catch. So in a series of promises, the last one, if any of them fail, the rest of them will not be entertained by JavaScript. Got it? If there is one if there is one of the rejections in the promises, then the rest ones will never run. So I think this is enough for today. We'll continue it tomorrow as well because there are a few more things left in promises, because it's a vast sort of topic. So you should practice it till now, and at least it is better than the callback hell. We will continue tomorrow. Thank you. Okay, so we are using a chain of thens, and at the end we are catching the promise. What improvement can we bring in this code already? This is an array which we are repeating. So what we can do, we can just assign it to a variable and just pass a reference to this code. So let us create a variable now, this, and just use maybe we need to do it above it. So here we will then just use ARR. Is this okay? Okay, so technically what this code is doing, this is returning a promise. Okay, so promise, this p2 is a promise, that's why we can use dot then with it, and within the dot then callback function we are returning another call to this function which is returning promise as well. That's why we are using dot then and so on. So dot then is chained so that at the end we can catch it, and catching is if there is an error in the promises, it will actually reject. So the reject code will go here. We can improve this code by using something called let us create a few variables. So let p1 equals let p1 is equal to the first this one, for example. Now let us make it a. Let p2 equals this second one, and we will make it z. Similarly, let p3 equals let p4 equals is this okay? p1 p2 p3. Let us comment this code out. Okay. Okay, so these are different timings. Now previously we were using dot then with each of these dot then, but right now we won't use it. This is these are 5 promises now, and we will create another array. Let promises array equals, and we will pass all of these p1 p2 p3 p4 p5 p. That's all. So we have placed all the promises inside an array. Now the promises array has 5 separate promises. So what we can do is we can use promise dot all. So promise dot all is a static function on the promise object which accepts an array of promises. So what's the array of promises we have created right now? It's the promises array. Promises array. So promise dot all function accepts a promises array which has all the promises. So these are individual promises, 5 promises, and we have put all the promises into this array, and now we are passing that array into the promises dot all function, promise dot all function. So rather than catching individually the using dot then after each one, we will have now a single dot then and dot catch based on this array.
Yes.
So promises dot all, promises array dot then and dot catch. So actually it will now work on the whole array rather than individually. Got it?
Yes.
So dot function then we'll have similar callback, dot function, and whatever is passed into it will be a data array or whatever. Similarly, it will have a function and it will also have some data. Is this clear? Now dot then function, this d is actually, what are your guesses? Will it be a single value or it will be an array? Previously it was a single value. Now it is an array. For example, if I console.log d, and if I console.log here as well, if something goes wrong, it will be caught here. Nay. So if there is no error right now, a, z, m, a, t all are allowed values. So do you think we will end up on the catch? No,
No, sir.
because all of them are being resolved. The promises are being resolved. So let us check the console now. So what are we? It is on line 66. So we are consoling the array actually. We have created, not created actually, which we are getting in the dot then. So this console, this is being console logged here. So if we check, we are getting an array, and this array contains all the values. Previously in dot then we would get just the single value which is passed in this function. If you remember, I had told you whatever is passed to the resolve function, we can catch it inside the then function. Okay, here all of those values will be in an array here. So in case if I need to get the first value, how can I get console.log it? D0. So what it will be now? A. This is A. If I do the second one, so both are being. One thing you might have noticed that all of the this array is printed as a sum of all these times. So if all of them are resolved, then the whole data will be printed, the array will be printed. Okay, it won't be on individual basis. That's one of the things you need to remember. Okay, if I need to print all the values, what we can do, this d is an array. Okay, so do you know destructuring? So we can have a, b, c, d, e equals d, and console dot log say d. What it will be printing? Any guesses? This a, this a. Okay, what is destruction? It is actually a very easy way in ES6 to do this. Okay, so for example, let a is equal to d0, let b is equal to d1, let c is equal to d2. So rather than doing all of these assignments ourselves, destructuring is this construct. You have to use array or objects. So here this is an array actually. So this variable is being converted into this structure. So this is the first variable, a, b, c, d. It has 5 elements in it. So the first one will be this, second one will be this, third one will be this, and so on. So this is known as destructuring. You can Google about it yourself as well. And we can directly pass it the destructuring structure here as well. Rather than just d, we can destructure it here as well, and then we will have all these variables available. But we will leave it for now. But the bottom line is, if you need to have maybe hundreds of promises in some code. So you can keep them in an array and pass it to promise.all function, and it will either resolve or get rejected collectively rather than using all of these thens. Is this okay? Okay, the next thing is, if for example we use some illegal value here as we have already defined it, so now the catch will be run for us. Why is this G getting printed? Because we are printing it in the console and in the catch statement. Okay, so one of the drawbacks of using promise.all is that if any of the individual promises has a reject in it, so all of them will be rejected. Got it? So here, for example, we have 5 promises in this. If just one is being, these two should pass, and here if it reaches G, it will be rejected. So it will be rejected overall. So promise.all has this feature, and in then, if you remember, the first two ran, and if there was some illegal character, then it would just stop there. But here it won't run at all. If it is a catch, so it will just be outputting the catch value. Got it? Okay, there is another function, and that is known as promise.raise. Suppose we want one of the quickest one. For example, there are 10 promises, and we want the first one only, which runs which gets resolved the first. We just need one value. So what we can do, we don't know about it, for example, right now. So what we will use the same promises array again in promise.raise this. So promise.raise and the promises array, this one which has the 5 promises in it, dot then, and it will have the same function with a value like this. And similarly we can have dot catch also, but right now we just want promise.raise. What do you think will be this D? Is it an array or normal value? Normal, because it actually is just one value. It will return you one promise only of the whole array, so the value also is 1. So for example, what do you think will be the output of this code? What will it output if you look into all these? Which A? Second last, this one, because this is the quickest, so the race will be won by this one. So if we console.log D, and let us write something with it as well. This is the 4th A. $sign this and A. Okay, let us check our console if it is working properly. This is the 4th A. If I change it to, for example, 5,000 milliseconds, and change the Z1 to 1000, so which will then it be printing this one, because this promise is winning the race. In practical scenarios, maybe there are 2 or 3 identical API calls, and you want to fetch only the one which fetches the fastest results for you. for example. So you can use dot raise function there. So now it will be outputting uh, z. This is z. Okay, is this clear? Okay, so promises or dot all, if there is a catch, I mean if there is something wrong, so the reject will be fired and the whole stream will show the rejected. But there is a newer function which is promise dot all settled. Promise dot all settled. It has the same dot then function. We'll pass the promises array to it as well, like this, and it has a dot then function just like promises dot all. So it is just the difference is dot all settled. Okay, let us quickly copy this code and paste it here and make it all settled. We will remove the catch and maybe we can comment out this code. Okay, so it's promise dot all settled and the promises array, whatever the list of promises we have, and the d now, if you console.log d, so it will be, it will have all the statuses of it will have an array of all the objects containing statuses of all the promises. So let us quickly check that. So this is the array and it has objects where we can see the statuses of whether the promise got rejected or accepted. So you can loop through it and we can get the statuses. So I have A, O, J, A, G. So these O, J, G have been rejected because they are not allowed, and only the A's have been fulfilled. So that's how, if you need a list of promises to have all of the statuses known, because in promise dot all we have if any of the promises gets rejected, it is we only get the catch, but in all settled we can get the statuses of all the individual promises in this array. We can loop through d also. So d dot for each, and it will have a function so data dot status, and if we console dot log it, so you can see we have 3 rejected ones and 2 are fulfilled. This is fulfilled, this is fulfilled, which is A actually, and these 2 are rejected. So you can do some operations on these, whether your promises were rejected or accepted. So if you need to bother about the statuses of all the promises, then you should use all settles, which is a newer method. Otherwise you can use all. In this case, even if you have hundreds of promises, if any of those are rejected, then the reject function will run and that can be caught here. And if all of them get succeeded, then you can run code in the dot then of the all after all. Okay, now let's move on. Okay, but we can improve this code further, the promises code further, and we will start using async and await functions. So let us do that now. For that, I have to recap the initial part of this code, if you remember. And this is a question for you also. What is inside the function we pass to the dot then of a successful promise? Yeah, what's this value actually?
That was a character. This is the value inside the result.
Is resolve, exactly. So whatever is passed to the resolve function, we catch it here inside the then function of in then as well as in catch. Okay, this is very important for what we are going to learn now. So let us even here, if we do, we will create the same example again. I will have to print my name, AOG whatever. So I will create a function and call it name printer sync async, for example. Okay, this is just normal function. So it will, if I call this promise now, this name printer inside the function, so you should have no issues, right? So I will just call this function, and maybe if I have to print Wasim Akram's name, so it will be W. What will be the outcome of this function? It's and it is this P1 or anything which is a promise. So let P is equal to this. So this P will be a promise. Do you agree? So what we do with the promise, we use dot then with it. So P dot then, and it is going to be a function, and this function actually accepts an argument, and that argument is what passed to this resolve function, this one. So we can catch it here. So here if I just print console.log, the first letter of Wasim Akram is and $D. Got it?
Yes.
I think this should be fair enough. So this is a function, and if we call this function, only then can this code run. So let us call that function first, like this, and let us see if we are able to print W. This is on line 90 we have printed W. Okay, but this is a lot of code again. We are using dot then and something like that. Do you agree?
Yes.
So what we can do is we can refactor this code. We will remove this dot then, and we will add async at the start of the function. Once you add async to the start of the function, it means that there will be some code inside this function which will be used for asynchronous JavaScript, or and the line of code where we need to add another keyword is await. So if you make a function in async, it means inside it you will have to use some await keyword, and that await is used for promises actually. So this line returns a promise. Do you agree? Because we are using dot then with it. So now it actually returns a promise. So we will use await, and promise basically is the code which is you are waiting for it for some reason. Maybe it is API call, or set timeout, or anything else. So now what do you expect with this P? If I console.log P, what it will be? Why? it is W. It is W, but why? I mean, previously we would use we will catch the W in dot then,
Yes, sir.
but now we don't need to use dot then function. So the output of promise will be stored if you use a bit with it inside the variable it is assigned to. So this is actually equal to, if you don't use dot await, so it means dot then and then function, and function will pass a value d, and here we will console.log d. So we don't need to do all this, it directly runs it for us, and the await actually runs that dot then for us, you can say in that context, and it stores the value here. So whatever is now passed to this resolve here can be part here if you use async functions. So async and await, and this p now is the value which is normally in our dot then functions. Is this clear? So this code is a lot cleaner than that one. Is this fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me again, for your understanding, I will call this code again, maybe this one. So name printer or this, it is going to be a let new p equals this, and then what we will do, new p dot then it is passed a function, and the function is passed a parameter which is actually the data, and this d will be console.log d, and here you will console.log p. Both of them are the same code. I mean, the output is w here also and here also, but this one is far easier than this code. So this is another improvement for the functions using promises. So we can use dot then also, but if you think this is cumbersome, you can use async await. So async is used before the function name, and then inside where the promises is used, you will have to use the await keyword, and the value actually is the one which you pass to the dot then callback function. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, there are now two things you need to be careful about. If I need to print all the values in sequence, if you need to print all the values of a semicolon in sequence, so you can copy and paste this, w a and so on. So first this line will be run whatever is the time, then this line, then this line. It will wait inside the function, it will wait for this to be resolved, and then this, and then this. These will not run concurrently. Is this clear?
Yes.
So for example, it will print we are not printing it, but at least this line will be run first, then this, then this. So that's where we are going towards. So one of the ways, and this is do you know about try catch block? Try and then catch. And catch has error also, probably like this. So we will run these inside this try. So it will try to run these. So it will, in other words, it will try to resolve all these Otherwise, if they are not resolved, then you can catch them here, so that your program continues to run and you can do something with the error. So for example, console.log, one of the promises have failed. So whatever is the error, it will actually be caught here. So for example, if we run it now, console.log p2 p3 and have we used any J here? P2 p3 p2 p3 okay, thank you. WAS, okay, but if we make it one of the, say this one D, let's see how it behaves. So you can see one of the promises have failed. You can practice on using async await. It just is, they call it sugar coated promises. So you get rid of dot then dot catch, and you run all of those in this async function. But wherever you are going to run the promises function, you have to use the wait. In real world, actually you can call functions which can fetch data from some API or something like that. Okay. So I think this was all for today, and see you tomorrow.